Well, hello. It's a treat today. We're doing a chat with Matt with the John Lenzen. He is the car guy, but we're going to hear more about John today. So thanks for joining us. 12 questions in about 25 minutes, and arguably the most generous man in Carver County, but we'll find out more about that now. So many know you as synonymous with Lenzen Chevrolet, St. John's Lutheran, a champion for their causes, former Carver Lions president, two-time Carver mayor. I didn't know that till I did some of this research. 21-year firefighter.
Right.
Carver County resident, kids, grandkids. But what are the three words you'd use to describe John Lenzen?
Blessed. I think one of the things you always have is the foundation is so important. If you have a good foundation, I think religion is important. And then finally, community is very important to me. I think that's what made my success of being here for 43 years.
Were you the founder of the Lions Club in Carver?
I was charter president. I was the 10th president. I was the 20th year president. And I'm still a member at 47 years.
That's right. The Lions have done so much. What got you involved with it, and how have you seen it grow?
Well, there's a gentleman in Chaska who used to have the hardware store there, coast to coast, Ray Hunsiger. And Ray came over and said, well, John, we're going to want to form a club over in Carver, and we'd like you to be part of it and be, take over president. And it seemed like it was a good organization. We served. That was the goal of it, and we did that, and it's worked out really well.
Kirby Puckett, red Corvette, how did that come to be? What's the story behind that?
Well, I was belonged to the Chevrolet Dealer Association, and I became their president. And when I was president of the association, 108 dealers, I had an opportunity to sign a contract with Minnesota Twins, and I met the whole complete front office. And Kirby was always a big point there. So yeah. Then Kirby took him around the last field around the last time. And as we're going up the ramp, I gave him my card. And when I gave him my card, I said, Kirby, if you ever need a vehicle, come out and see me. Well, 10 days later, I got a phone call and said, I'm coming out to see it. And I couldn't believe it. And he did. And he bought a brand new Suburban Carryall. And we sent it out to Waldeck, and we really did it up right. And when he came to pick it up, I had the opportunity of driving it and vet around the field. So my wife was here, and it's actually her car. So I said, when Kirby's here, why don't you come on in, and we'll see if we can get him to sign the hood of the car. So it happened just that way, and he was sitting there. She came through the door, give her a big hug, and they were talking back and forth, and I'm doing the paperwork, and she says, Kirby, that Corvette that you went around the field, that's mine. Would you sign the hood? Oh, he said, I'd love to. So, of course, what he didn't know is I had the hood, the clear coat taken off it, and then I had a special pen. And so they went out there and told her where to sign it. Yeah. And so she signed it. He signed it, and then I put it back in the body shop and clear coated it and stored it. And now, coming in August sometime, I don't know the exact time, it's going to go up to the auction for the Twins. So gentleman's out here, and he got all the items I had on Kirby, like I had papers signed, and the picture I was in the St. Paul Pioneer Press on the front page, and had that signed. And so he's got all this stuff, and see what happens.
So Kirby's been in this office. I'm sure there's been thousands of people that have been in the office, generations. Tell us the story of Lenzen Chevrolet. How did that come to be? And I think there's something about you starting with Speed Dualter and the pump and gas back in the day.
Actually, Leon Dualter was runner of the Carver store, which is a Buick store over there, and the Chevrolet was Chaska. Dualter Motors bought out Williams Chevrolet in Chaska. That's how it became Chevrolet Buick. Now, one day I went to work at a gas station, and I turned around 2 months ahead of time, said I got to take off on Saturday for a wedding, a family wedding. And it was all set up. Well, we got very, very busy, and the owner said, well, if you take off, you're fired. So I went to church and went home and told my dad. Went to church the next day. Dad said, hey, what's going to happen? He's going to tell you you're supposed to be down there at the station, And he says, you tell him you don't work for him anymore. And of course, in them days, your dad and mom were pretty important. So that's just what happened. Yep. And then I got off the school bus on Monday, and Leon Dualter pulled up in front of our house. He says, kid, he said, you looking for a job? He said, I heard what happened. I said, sure. He said, well, you got the job, when do you want to start? He says, change clothes, come on up. So I started sweeping floors and grease oil and filtering cars and in the body shop. And worked my way through college, and then 7 different owners of the dealership. And in 1978, I became partner with a gentleman by the name of Ed Nelson. And Ed was here. The first year he went to Florida for 3 weeks. He come home and things were better than when he left. And the next year he went for 3 months and went down the line, and he went to 6 months. And he come back and he said, I don't deserve to be part of this. You've done a good job. I want to sell it to you. So we made a deal between the two of us, and the total, this is the unbelievable part of it, total amount of money we spent on attorney fees was $90. And we transacted.
It never happened today.
No.
Yep.
No, it won't today either.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's how I became dealer here.
So today's crazy world of incentives and trying to get people to work for you and different things probably didn't stack up much to back then. I heard something about a 1964 Skylark, free gas and free insurance that was offered to you. Is there any truth to that?
That's, I went to the Duwaller family, Don Duwaller's house, and the brothers were all there. And they said, would you tell us what you're going to get working for First National Bank of Minneapolis? And I said, sure. I didn't like to drive down to Minneapolis, so I gave them the papers, and they looked at it and went in the other room and came back out and said, well, we'll match that, plus we'll give you a Skylark convertible, free gas, and free insurance. When you don't have anything, it was really pretty awesome.
That is.
Yeah.
What was the cost of gas then?
Oh, about 70-some cents, 78 cents, if I remember right, yeah.
So let me do some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Best memory involving your kids?
I think they all gave me joy playing basketball.
Yep. A $5 bet on your own skills that you'd be sure to win.
Oh boy. I was graduated from high school, in a yearbook. There's 5 girls in a class, said most likely not to succeed. So.
And you proved them wrong all these years later, right? One characteristic that makes a great business owner that was relevant then and it's relevant today.
I think you got to have, I think I read some of your memo there, your concern for people, the love for people, give them good service, give them their money worth, and there's not too many dealers like that around.
I think your dad had a quote that said something like, give them 5 times what they pay you.
Yes, right.
Did I get it right?
No, that's positive.
Yeah. One remaining bucket list item. Anything you want to do before you call it good?
Well, down the road soon, be turning the dealership over to my son and daughter. So I just want to relax, play some golf, do some fishing.
That's right.
And maybe head her south in the wintertime for 2-3 months and get away from Minnesota.
Well deserved. One thing Carver County needs that it doesn't have already.
I think Carver County is pretty blessed. I think one of the things that got to always work on harder is the parks. I think park is a good spot for people that aren't well blessed, that need a place to go with their family. And if they keep them up, like Baylor Park is a good park. Yep. Been there for years.
Yep.
I think that's one of the priorities should, besides spending the tax dollar properly.
That's right. 7 sisters, 2 brothers. You're the youngest of 10.
Yes.
Dad, Ernest, is
yes,
that right?
Yep.
And Mom, Anna. What was it like growing up with a family that size? And was there one big story that you remember from your childhood?
Well, my mother was definitely a good cook, and she worked real hard keeping the house clean and our clothes clean and putting patches on our pants because we were a very poor family. My dad was the opposite. He was a loving and caring guy that put his arm around you, and even if you did something wrong, he'd say, well, that's all right, we'll go ahead and step on. So he had many plans, and just was a scholar, and that's the person I try to live after.
Yep. Generosity can be a thankless job. People always seem to want more and often forget the last check written or donation made. Your generosity is unparalleled. A scoreboard at the Chaska High School, the big Christmas tree at Fireman's Park, known to be a parade organizer, fundraisers at St. John's, and maybe even calling a few people and saying you're going to put money in this bucket. Where does that generosity come from, and what are some other areas that you've put money towards that you've had great joy in?
Well, you just happened to walk in with me, and here's a list of what's going on for this month into the end of September, and it's from the point of, it started out here, Waconia Ridgeview Hospital Foundation will be next week, Auburn Manor Golf Tournament on the 12th of July, Chaska High School Golf Tournament Girls on the 21st of July, 21st of July, which maybe you'll be part of this, is Chaska Community Picnic at the Veterans Park, and it's supposed to be with the Chaska Police, Carver County Health Center, and St. John's Church, and we're supposed to cook the brats and hot dogs for that. 19th, we got Waconia Chamber Golf Tournament. On August 1st, we got St. John's Tournament for St. John's Lutheran School, fundraisers for buying the playground and keeping it set. August 11th to the 15th is Carver County Fair. August 26th, 29th, Stifton Fest. And they requested 10 cars up there for the Stifton Fest.
And that's just 45 days. That's just 1 year.
That's just 1 year. Done it for every year.
Yeah. Where does the generosity come from? I
think when you don't come from a family that didn't have much, but you had love, I think you want to give.
Yep.
I think that's the secret of the whole thing. Giving instead of receiving. I'm not good at receiving.
We sure love it when you host the Chaska Cubs Day too. It seems like the ballpark numbers swell that day. When's the John Lenzen night going to be at the Cubs? So we appreciate that.
Cubs is a good organization, and they work hard at keeping the park nice, and it's a good place for a lot of elderly people go from the homes up here.
Yep.
And I know Marge and Tom and Marge go down, and they won't miss a game. They sit down in the first row, and it's all Chaska Cubs, so that's good.
Graduate of Minnesota School of Business, but most of your career has been outside the classroom. Do you value higher education in kids today, or should they go the path of the hard knocks and start trade school or some different path?
I think there's more than one path. I think the kid coming out of high school has got to figure out if he really wants to go on to college, or it's something everybody's telling me should do. Trade school is nothing wrong with it. To be a plumber is a great field right now. If you look at this virus time, you turn to who's busy? The carpenters, the plumbers, other people are out of their job. These people are working harder than that because they can't keep up to building the houses.
That's right.
So there's, I think it's set for both.
Yep. I don't think we hear enough stories from the legends of Carver County, which I put you in that legacy group. With video and recording capacity, are there any stories that you want to share or be preserved on video that people should know from 20, 30, 40 years ago?
I think one of the highlights of my life was being mayor of Carver, and I was able to go to the Aquatennial Parade with Hubert H. Humphrey, and he invited me to his house up in Waverly, Minnesota, and had a picnic up there, and that was kind of one of the highlights of life, saying that's a politician in it, which you know well.
There's nothing about cop cars and cinder blocks or watermelon field raids, are there?
I would never think of doing that.
Any mischief story from your past that you want to share?
Oh boy. I don't think we have enough time for that.
There's got to be one, just one little story.
Oh man. Okay, I'll tell you a story. Working as a salesperson for Dual Motors out of Chaska, we had Butch's Bar was right next door, and Charlie Bork was someone that was very active in the community. He played Santa Claus for years, and one day he come running in the office and he said, "John, come here, quick." I said, "What's up, Charlie?" "Come here," he said. So we went out to the door, big overhead door, and stood there, and this Ben Fritz was sitting on the steps of Butch's. And he sat there and he was talking to himself. His dog was sitting there. And he ended up by saying, yeah, Fritzy, when you die, you're dead. When I die, I got to go to hell yet.
I bet you just have thousands of those little stories with different people. Are there any fallacies, misconceptions, or rumors that surround John Lenzen or Lenzen Chevrolet that you want to talk about?
No, I just think that one of the nicest things that recently happened is that Christmas tree.
Yes.
I have more comments of people calling at that time. It's always the first Sunday in December, and there's a lot of people that show up, and it's just kind of people say, "Hey, thanks," and I think that's important.
It doesn't have a big logo on it, but I know that you spent quite a few days over at the American Legion, and my daughter would go up and be like, "That's the guy that bought the Christmas tree." I think those stories need to stay alive. You're handing the torch to your son and your daughter. What does that mean to you?
I think it's an opportunity that doesn't happen a lot anymore. I think family businesses, just don't stay together. Yeah. And so to be fortunate enough to have a son and a daughter that's in the same business with you, and both of them doing well. They both went to college. One went to Texas, and the other one went to St. Thomas. And no, it's just a good feeling to know they're on their feet, and hopefully they'll do well.
Yep. And then I think we talked before we put the camera on, you got a daughter getting married soon too.
I have a daughter that graduated from ASU, and she's teaching down in Virginia, 3rd grade, and right now she's going after her master's, and she get married September 4th, and so that's pretty exciting.
Crazy. Get her back to Carver County.
She's
2 more questions. Second and the last one is, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. What questions should I be asking you of all of your accolades and things you've done for this community?
I just think no one should pat themselves on the back. I think it's go out there, no matter who it is, and obviously what's going on in Minneapolis and St. Paul and these things. Don't carry it inside yourself. Release it and be friendly, be kind, and show love.
Yep. And then last question is how would you make Carver, or recommend to people that are watching, to make Carver County even better?
I think, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this because you're sitting, but I think it's good to read your background. In fact, I think I got you someplace in my desk.
There it is.
That you there?
Who's that good looking girl? There it is. That's good.
I think what you have in there is very important. There's not too much you miss, and if you do what you say you're going to do, I think you'll find out the questions you're asking me, you'll have the same feeling.
Yeah.
Act, do it, make it happen, and you'll reward the process of it.
One of the things I often say is we need to neighbor well. We need to show people the ropes of what it feels like to live in Carver County, especially the new families. And it starts with a wave, and then it leads to a conversation, maybe an invitation, and then the families start working together. And so you've done that well. You've been a great neighbor to Carver County, and we appreciate everything you've done. Thanks for the time.
Carver, little town of Carver, and the parade they have, it's one of the things some people say, well, it's a Lenzen parade. But we go over there and have a great day, and it's had up to 7,000 people on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So that's the answer to the whole thing, shaking hands and smiling and enjoying life.
That's cool. Well, this is John Lenzen. It's been a privilege to be on this with you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and good luck in your future.
Thank you.